Hello and welcome, and this is Peter. And the first thing I'd like to say to you is thank you very much for listening to this audio. I really appreciate you. Thank you very much. In this audio, I want to talk about a distinction that we call change causes persistence. Okay? So this distinction is change causes persistence. Now, let's get started. You have seen people around you, and you may have even been one of these yourself, who have tried to change something about yourself, right? What's the typical thing we people try and change about ourselves? Well, we try and change our weight, we try and change our looks, we try and change our jobs, we try and earn more money. Over our lifetimes, there's a number of things we try and change about ourselves, right? And you are always hearing people talk about, particularly personal development gurus, you're always hearing them talk about, change. Things change and you need to change with the times. And you hear a lot of talk about you should change, right? Now, there's a problem with change that most people don't understand. Okay? There's a problem with change that most people don't understand. What's the process that most people get taught if you pick up a book and you read it? What will you be taught about change? You'll be taught that it's hard to change. It takes time to change. And you need to work at it. Right? You'll be taught these things. Go look at a book. You'll be taught these things. It's hard to change. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes repetition. And there are many ways that people say you can achieve change, right? Dress for success. Act like you are successful, and eventually you will become successful. So acting and repetition and doing things over and over again is a way to change. Hell, the entire book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, which is one of the best-selling self-help books of all time, talks about make habits of those things that you want to change into. Make it a habit. Do it repetitively. Keep doing it over and over again, and soon enough you'll change to match that habit. I know. I read it. Okay. There's also things like visualizations and affirmations. People talk about visualizations and affirmations being able to produce change, being able to produce the right mindset. And there's something to be said for that too. For example, when I joined IBM way back in 1986, you had to do entry-level training, and you had to do this class by this guy called Lewis Tyers. And the class was about affirmations and producing change, the change we want in our life, through repetition and affirmations and things like that. So one day, I'd only been at IBM like 6 months, and I went down to my hometown in Wagga Wagga, Australia. I was on vacation, or it might have been towards the end of the year. I can't remember exactly when. It was a warm day, so it probably was later in the year. And I went and had a game of golf with my dad, right? Who was a pretty good golfer, okay? And me, I'm an appalling golfer. I'm a terrible golfer because I never actually got much practice, right? I never took it seriously, and I never had much practice, and I was a terrible golfer. So anyhow, as it happens with me in golf, I have a good long game. I can drive a ball 300, 350 meters because I just, at that age, I just had this really big, long backswing, and I could use my spine to really whip the club head through. So I had massive speed on the club head by the time it hit the ball. I could outdrive my brother who was playing off scratch, right? But direction, where that ball went, well, that was a little bit of a different matter. And putting, I was great at putting. I could sink a 10, 12-foot putt pretty much every time. But my short game, if I was between 50 and 100 meters from the tee, I was in trouble. I mean, literally. If I was 50 meters from the tee, my next shot, I could just as easily be 100 meters past it on the other side as fluff the shot and still be 45 meters from the tee. So if I was 50 meters from the pin, if I was 50 meters from the pin, for my next shot, I could be anywhere from 45 meters on the same side to 100 meters past it. I was, in fact, complete crap at my short game. So anyhow, we were playing this game of golf, and I'd driven the ball. This was a par 4, okay? It was about 300 meters. And I'd managed to drive the ball about 50 meters with my first shot, about 50 meters past the green, right? Literally, I hit this drive, it's par 4, I hit this drive so well that it bounced in front of the green, ran across the green, bounced on the green, and bounced about 50 meters past the green. Great shot, but, still I'm 50 meters past the green. So anyhow, the pin was at the back of the green, and the green leaned forward, okay, and there was a little rise about 3 foot at the back of the green to give it the angle to lean forward, right? So I'm now 50 meters behind the green, and my shot is, the only shot I've got is, I've got to chip the ball with backspin on it hard enough to hit that little 3 feet slant at the back of the green and pop up right next to the pin, which is only a few feet from the back of the green. I've got to play that shot, right? Now, of course, gentlemen, I have never played that shot in my life because I'm crap at my short game. I never even would have imagined playing it. But I was standing there and I thought about this Lou Tice, and I thought, maybe if I just do what is in my class and I visualize it and repeat it over and over in my head, maybe I can make this shot. Who knows? And it's just a bit of fun, right? Because I didn't really believe I could make this shot, right? So I visualize it and visualize it and visualize it and practice my little swing, etc., etc. And my dad's like, we haven't got all day, Santa Claus is coming, kind of thing. And I play this shot, and it was perfect. It was inch perfect. And I finished up a foot from the pin. And I hit it, and it hit just near the top of the little slope. I dug in a little bit, popped up, and spinning backwards, landed next to the pin, and almost stopped dead. And my dad looks at me and goes, "What the hell have you been doing up in Sydney? You've been playing golf rather than working?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "Where did you learn to play a shot like that?" And I went, "You know me, I've never played a shot like that in my life. But I'm doing this training at IBM about visualizations, and look, it seems to work, right?" And he's like, "Damn, that's a good shot." And of course, it was a good shot. And I've never played a shot that good ever again. So these visualizations, these repetitions, these affirmations, these sorts of ways of learning things, they give us encouragement because occasionally something like that will happen. Something that's completely, purely, utterly impossible will happen, and you go, "This is working. I'm getting the change I wanted," right? And we'll be encouraged to keep up this change idea. And that's one of the most insidious things about all these self-help books, etc., that teach you how to change. They teach you some things where you do get incremental changes, where things do improve, and we're encouraged to keep going because we're getting that little further along, right? So that was one of the things that I discovered at Landmark was I'd been trying to change, and I'd been moving along a little bit, and I'd been encouraged in these efforts because I was having what looked to me like some success. So what's the downside of this thing called change? When I say change causes persistence, what's the downside of the change? Well, changing something is a reaction to an existing situation. I have an existing situation in some way, shape or form. For example, I'm a lousy golf player, right? I'm lousy at my short game. I try this affirmation and I hit the shot of my life. Fantastic. This works, one thinks to oneself. Fantastic, I said to myself. I can do these visualizations and then I can improve my golf game. And if I can improve my golf game through these visualizations, sure as hell I must be able to improve my programming ability and things like that, right? Surely I must be able to improve the quality of my relationships, improve my effectiveness in the world. Because if I can improve my golf game, which is an absolute hopeless cause, then I should be able to improve other things, right? But the seeds of lack of success, or the seeds of failure, are buried right there. Buried right there. Because as you try and change things, the more you try and change things, what do? Change is a response to a situation that you find unacceptable for some reason, right? My short game was unacceptable. I try these affirmations and visualizations, and my short game gets that little bit better. I have a miracle shot, and I'm encouraged. So I keep trying. But what's there? What's still there every time I'm trying? Every time I do an affirmation, every time I do a visualization, what's still there? My short game sucks, right? My short game sucks. I'm trying to fix my short game. So as I'm doing my affirmations, as I'm trying to improve, I'm carrying forward with me, well, what's the reason that I'm doing this stuff? The reason I'm doing this stuff is my short game sucks. And so what's there underlying, carried forward as seeds, is my short game sucks. So what happens if you do this with selling? What happens if you take these courses which will teach you sales scripts, for example? Sales scripting is a big business. Okay? What happens if you do these courses where you learn how to mirror the other person? You've heard of mirroring, right? If you haven't, just look it up. You do mirroring, or you do neuro-linguistic programming, or you do any of a million other things that you can read about in sales training. What are you doing? You're trying to do something to compensate for a lack of ability results in sales. You're compensating for it in some way. And in compensating for it in some way, you are carrying forward that which you are compensating for. And you are sowing the seeds of your own failure because you're trying to change something. And while you're trying to change something, you're bringing that something forward with you. Right? While you're trying to change that something, you're bringing that something forward with you. Sowing the seeds of your own lack of success or demise in some cases. So for example, the example we use in Landmark is, if I have a square, how do I create a triangle? How do I change a square into a triangle? And we all know you remove one side and just adjust the other sides, right? And you ask the question, okay, I've changed my square into a triangle. Is the square gone? And the answer is no, the square is not gone. One side of the square is gone, but three sides of the square are still there. Three sides of the square are still there. They're now just arranged as a triangle. And change is like that. If I'm trying to change a square into a triangle, I take one side away, I adjust the sides a little bit, and now I have a triangle, but in fact, three sides of the square are still there. Right? That's what change gets you. Change gets you the persistence of what was already there. And it's like having, let's say we have 4 little Cuisinart rods, these rods we had when we were kids and playing. Well, maybe you didn't, right? But these little rods, and we have 4 little rods and they form a square, or 4 matches and they form a square. And we take one match away, we push the other 2 to a point, and we say, I've changed the square into a triangle. Whereas, in fact, what has happened is the 3 sides of the square are still there. They're now just arranged as a triangle. And that's what change will do, right? Change will give you the illusion of progress, the illusion of getting that little bit better, but it's still, you're still taking forward the seeds of your demise, the seeds of your failure. What you changed is carried forward. Okay? So think about that. Change causes the persistence of that which you attempt to change. So if change is not great for human beings, attempting to change is not great for human beings, because you've seen how many people, oh yeah, I lost weight, but then they put the weight straight back on because they changed. If change is not so constructive for human beings, what is constructive for human beings? What else might we do? What else might we inquire into, right? So by now, I hope that you've thought to yourself, and maybe you've turned this off and examined your own life in where you've tried to change things and noticed that what you were trying to change somehow miraculously turned up again somewhere else. Maybe you noticed that. The question on your mind could be, at this point in time, well, what's another approach? What's a more effective approach for human beings? Okay? Now this is going to kind of blow your mind, okay? Because it's going to sound like wordplay. It's going to sound like, but you just used a different word. And to an extent, it is wordplay, and to an extent, we do just use a different word, okay? But the result of using the different word is a dramatically different result, or dramatically different outcome for people, for human beings, right? So the word we use, and the word you will hear a lot if you ever do enroll yourself in landmarking, go do their classes, which I highly recommend, the word you will hear a lot is transformation. Okay? Transformation. And transformation tends to have a lot of different meanings. Now today, we're only going to talk about transformation with respect to change, right? But transformation tends to have a lot of different contexts and a lot of different meanings within Landmark. It's applied many, many different ways, and it's one of the fundamental concepts. And it's one of the ways that we are able to, in some way, reprogram ourselves to create the future that we wish to create, rather than being the victim of our circumstances, right? So transformation. So if we were to say, I've got 4 matches formed as a square, change these matches into a triangle, what would most people do? They'd take the 4 matches, they'd remove one match, they'd move the other 2 to a point, and they say, there, the square has been changed into a triangle. And what's there? What's there is 3 sides of the square. Okay? Now, here comes the interesting bit. If you were to say to a Landmark grad like me, here's 4 matches, transform these matches into a triangle, right? Someone said to me, transform these matches into a triangle. What would a landmark grad like me do? Okay, what would I do? You might want to stop the audio and think about that. What would you do if you were told, change these four matches forming a square into a triangle? You would almost certainly remove one match, push the other two together and form a triangle. You would almost certainly do that if you were asked to change four matches forming a square into a triangle, right? But what would you do if you were asked, transform these four matches into a triangle? What would you do? You might want to hit pause and think about it. Now that you're back, whether you hit pause or not, and thought about it, here's what I'd do, right? If I was given four matches and asked, transform these four matches from a square into a triangle, what would I do? Well, I would go to the matchbox and get three matches out and form a triangle. Right? Let me say that again. I would go to the matchbox, I would get three matches out, and I would form a triangle. And you may be saying, hey, Peter, that's cheating. You were asked to transform these four matches in this square into a triangle. No fair, you can't go back to the matchbox and get three more matches and form a triangle. No, that's not what the exercise asked. Really? Isn't it? That's what I would do. I would go back to the matchbox, get three more matches and form a triangle. And I would say, here is the square, it still exists, and I'm letting it be. And here is the triangle, the transformation of the square. This is the future. This is the transformation of this square with matches. Now you might say, but you didn't change the square. There's nothing different about the square. The square still exists. You didn't change it in any way. And the answer would be, no, I didn't. Why would I do that? Because you were asked to. No, I was asked to transform the square into a triangle. And so what I did was, I let the square be, and I took out some more matches, and I created a triangle, and I said this square is now transformed to this triangle. The square still exists, I respect its existence, and I let it be. But here's my triangle. And here's my triangle. The transformation of the square. Now, to you, hearing that for the very first time, you might say, oh, come on, Pete, that just sounds like wordplay. And you didn't actually transform the square. The square still exists. So, you didn't really change anything. You didn't really transform anything. You just created something new, you might say. From extra resources, you might say. And I would look at you and point at you and say, bingo. Bingo. Right? That's what I would say. Bingo. If you said to me, that's not fair, the square still exists, and the matches forming the square still exist, you took extra resources that you weren't told about to use, and you created a triangle as well as a square. That's not transforming the square into a triangle, that's creating a new triangle. That's different. And I'd say, bingo. Absolutely bingo. That's what transformation is about. In landmark terms, that's what transformation is about. It's about looking at that which you wish to transform, respecting its existence, respecting its history and its past, and letting it be. Just let it be. Don't try and do anything with it. Don't try and change it. Don't try and, quote, transform it. Don't do anything with it. Just let it be. And go to the virtually unlimited resources of your mind and your imagination. It costs you nothing to imagine something. Costs you nothing to create a vision. Costs you nothing to create a new thought. That's all free, gifted to you by evolution or your creator as you wish. Go back to your endless resource of your mind and create something new, which is not connected to this old thing in any other way, and put this new thing out there and next to it. And that, gentlemen, is what we mean by transformation. We invent something new. We take the old, the thing we wish to transform, like the square formed with matches. We respect its existence. We respect its history. We respect all that's gone before. And we let it be. Just like the Beatles song. Just let it be. Just let it be there. And out of our unlimited resources of our mind, we invent the new thing, create the new thing, and bring it into existence. And the new thing is the transformation of the old thing. That's what we mean by transformation. Okay? We're not trying to take the old thing and change it. We are introducing a new thing. And in the case of the matches as a square or Cuisenaire rods, we just take out 3 more rods. We take out 3 more matches and we create the triangle. Right? And the triangle is a transformation of the square, but it's not taking any of the square forward with it. That's the important point. In the triangle, which was created out of 3 separate matches, say, than the 4 matches of the square, we haven't taken anything of the square forward with the triangle. The triangle has a separate existence to the square. Okay? That's what we mean by transformation. And we'll talk a lot about transformation. But change. If you take the 4 matches or the 4 Cuisenaire rods that form the square and you try and change that into a triangle, you are taking 3 sides of the square forward into the new thing, right? And that's what change is. That's what change looks like. You keep dragging forward that which you're trying to change. It becomes part of the new thing rather than being left to be. Whereas with transformation, we say, allow the square to be, respect the existence of the square, and create a new triangle. And that's the square transformed into a triangle. And there's nothing from the square carried forward into the triangle. Okay? That's transformation. So how does this work when I'm talking about ways of being of people? Most people, when they try and change, are unsuccessful or have limited levels of success because they keep dragging forward the thing that they want to change. Like my golf game. I wanted to improve my golf game. I wanted to change my golf game. Well, while I'm wanting to change my golf game, what's being dragged forward? My bad golf game, right? My change is a compensation. What if I'm a salesman and I'm having lack of success in selling and I'm trying to change as a salesman to be more successful? What am I dragging forward? I'm dragging forward my lack of success, my way of being, called lack of success of being a salesman. That's what I'm dragging forward. And while I'm dragging forward my lack of success as a salesman, how do you think I'm going to do as a salesman against the other guys out there who are all pretty good? Some of them absolutely brilliant. How am I going to do? Right? I'm going to get whipped. I'm going to get beaten. So how does transformation work? In something like transforming somebody who's operating at one level of success as a salesman to a salesman who can and regularly does sell $1 million deals to $1 billion companies. How do you do that? If not through change. How do you do that? Well, in landmark speak, you do that through transformation. You do it through transformation. The mindset of transformation. You don't say, I am a failing salesman. This is what I did, right? I'm a failing salesman and I just can't get these deals closed. So what I need to do is I need to learn stuff in compensation for being a failing salesman. And if I just learn enough stuff, one way or the other, somehow, one day, I'll be successful as a salesman. I'm going to change who I am today, bit by bit by bit, to become the salesman I want to be tomorrow. Now, I did that for 6 years, guys. I did that for 6 years. You want to know something? You know what I recommend? Don't do that for 6 years. Don't take 6 years about doing that. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It's soul destroying. You know that, Pete, you worked hard, you did a great job, we sent a letter to your manager, you did really, really good, we're really pleased with what you did to us, but you didn't get the deal. Oh, gee, thanks. Right? Oh, gee, thanks. I'm so pleased that you're happy with me. Excuse me. I'm so pleased you respect me. I'm so pleased you're happy with me. I'm so pleased you like me. But I didn't get the deal, which is what I'm here to get. Oh, I had so many of those conversations, gentlemen. And I can tell you, it's heartbreaking. It's a killer. You don't want too many of those conversations, gentlemen, because if you have too many of those conversations, there's every chance you'll give up. Right? But that's what I did. I tried to change for 6 years. I tried to become a great salesman, little bit by little bit by little bit by little bit, learning from the masters around me, learning from books. I tried to change to become a salesman. And what happened on that fateful Friday morning? That fateful Friday morning, I went, I should tell the prospect whatever it is he needs to hear in order to buy whatever it is I'm selling. I should do that. and I kid you not, guys, I was laughing when I got it. Like I'd been at this 6 years. And when I got it, and it was that simple, it was one sentence, I just laughed my ass off. I was in the middle of 200 people in this forum, and I was just laughing my ass off, and I couldn't stop. And I laughed. I was laughing to myself all the way up to the lunch break. So this was 10:30, and the lunch break was about 1 o'clock. So I laughed my ass off for like 2.5 hours. I just couldn't help myself. I just kept laughing. Like 2.5 hours, I laughed at myself, right? And then when we went for our lunch break, the forum leader said to me, called me out and said, Peter, I want to talk to you before you go to lunch. And I said, sure. And she came up to me and she said, look, I don't appreciate that you're laughing at me. And I went, excuse me? I don't understand. And she said, I don't appreciate that you're laughing at me while I'm standing at the front of the class. And I went, oh, do you think I'm laughing at you? And she said, yes, you've been laughing for the last 2 hours. What else would you be laughing at except me? And I went, would you like to know? And she looked at me, confused, and said, you're not laughing at me? I went, no. In fact, I've taken almost no notice of you for the last 2.5 hours because of what just happened here for me. She went, really? I said, yes, would you like to know what just happened? She said, sure. And I gave her the very brief story of, I've been trying to learn how to be a salesman for 6 years, and I just got it. And I told her the sentence, and I said, it's so simple that I've been laughing at myself for the last 2 hours. I'm laughing at me. I'm sorry you felt I was laughing at you, but I'm laughing at me. So, do you understand how big an idiot I've been for the last 6 years and how much this has hurt me? And now how much I know, I just know I'm going to be successful. And she's like, really? That's a great story. I'll have to use that after lunch. I said, yeah. I said, I haven't heard a thing you said in the last 2.5 hours because I'm just laughing at myself. And she's like, okay, well, I'm glad we got that sorted out. And I said, oh, by the way, if there is one thing I have noticed about you, because you had these big Coca-Cola bottle glasses, she had these beautiful blue eyes. And she had the same beautiful blue eyes of the girl that I fell in love with when I was 12 years old, who had the same Coca-Cola bottle glasses and big blue eyes. So I said, if there is one thing I have noticed about you, you have the most beautiful big blue eyes. And she looked at me and said, thank you. She says, what do those mean to you? And I said, when I was 12, when I went to high school, and I met this girl with these really big, thick Coca-Cola bottle glasses, and she had beautiful big eyes just like you, and I fell in love with her instantly. I said, you remind me of her. You have beautiful big eyes. You remind me very much of the very first girl I fell in love with as a 12-year-old. She looked at me stunned and went, oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I went, yeah. So in fact, that's about the only thing I've noticed about you for the last 4 hours because I've been inside my own head. She's like, okay, great. And we left friends, right? We parted that discussion as friends. But that's kind of how this works, gentlemen. How this works is you don't try and change the way that you are into the way that you want to be, right? Transformation is about honor and respecting the way that you are and the way that you've been up to this point in time, and then using this miracle of a brain that you have with endless resources for inventing new things, and invent your new way of being as a possibility for the future, and live into your new way of being without reference to the past. That's what transformation is. And expressed as matches, it's expressed as, I'm going to transform these 4 matches, which are a square, into a triangle. What I do is I go back to the matchbox, my extra resources like my mind. I take 3 matches out and I form a triangle with the 3 matches from the matchbox. And that is the square transformed into a triangle. None of the square being carried forward. Okay? So if you're trying to change into a great salesman, if you're trying to change from your current level of success, whatever that might be, into a salesman who can sell $1 million deals to $1 billion companies, if you're working at changing into that, and the way that you're doing it is one little piece of knowledge at a time, one little trick at a time, one little post on the web, 5 ways to become a better salesman, 10 things you need to know in selling. If you're doing that, gentlemen, chances are you will never be that salesman, because you are trying to change who you are into something else, and you are dragging with you the who you are now into the something else. And like I said, gentlemen, I did it for 6 years, and I really know it's heartbreaking. When I finally put myself back in the cauldron of the Landmark Forum, I got it in an hour and a half. And then I had to do something else for the rest of the 3 days. Okay? That's what the focus of the mind can do. If you focus your mind and you really think about these things, and then you invent your future in a transformation, you are so much more likely to succeed. In fact, success, if you stick at it and work at it and work at it and work at it, I would argue success is guaranteed. The only way you don't have success applying these kind of ideas is you quit. Right? You quit. If you quit, you won't have the success you're after. But if you don't quit, if you just keep going, chances are you'll almost certainly have success. And I would even go so far as, if you keep at it, you will have success one day. Someday, it might be sooner, it might be later, but as long as you don't quit, you will have the success you're after one day. Okay? So with that, gentlemen, I think that's long enough now. Let's have a look at a little timer. Yeah, it's 41 minutes. I think that's long enough now, gentlemen. So we'll leave that here, and I will say thank you very much for listening, and bye for now.